Hey Colin, how you doing?
Hey Curtis, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing just all right. I'm taking a break from the virtual world to talk to you about some video games.
I've heard that world is a trip.
It is a trip. Um, so in this video, Colin, you and I are going to talk about Headmaster.
Mm-hmm.
So Headmaster is one of the many PlayStation VR games that came out at launch. Uh, and it's probably one of my favorites. One of the biggest surprises for me. I think overall, it was a game that I kind of saw and kind of understood what it was, but I didn't really expect myself to get into it as much as I have.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to talk about it, and then so you haven't played it, and so you are, the floor is open for you to ask questions,
I
and,
will.
and go ahead.
I will use played in the loosest sense as I played the demo of it at like a Best
Okay,
Buy a long time ago.
okay. But I figured there's like enough to this game that I think you and I, we could have a conversation about it because there's a lot I want to talk about. There is a story in this game, so we'll say we're out off the bat. I haven't finished it yet. I'm on one of the last trials.
Hmm.
I think there's just a few more when I looked at like the level selection. So I'm at the very end. But I'm stuck on one that's like really hard for me.
Okay.
Uh, but there is a story here. I will do my best not to spoil anything specifically. It's nothing too intricate or crazy, but there is more story here than you might expect. And it's one of the reasons why I actually like the game as much as I do. So Colin, to start out, so this is Headmaster was developed by a team called Frame Interactive. This is their very first game. Uh, Headmaster is actually it's backed by Sony, so I think it might be exclusive to PlayStation VR
Hmm.
for the foreseeable future, if not forever. But this was a team started by Ben Throop in 2015. He was a former game director at Activision, specifically Vicarious Visions. So that's kind of who Frame Interactive is. They're kind of a small team. Headmaster is $20, 19.99. I think it's actually got a discount that's still good for a couple more days. That puts it at like 17.99 or something like that. And this is a game about heading soccer balls into goals or various targets.
Yes.
That's it. That is the game. It is as simple as that.
Hmm.
And so it's something that Colin, like, do you like soccer or
Um.
football,
Or
depending on where you're from?
football.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the only time I ever watch football is probably during the World Cup. But
Okay.
other than that, like if a Team USA is playing, I'll watch it. But if it's just kind of some Major League Soccer MLS stuff, there's a pretty good chance I'm not gonna watch it.
Okay. I don't like soccer. Period.
Ooh,
I don't like. I can never really get into it. I've tried watching it a couple times, never really gotten into it. I
fighting
just don't really
words.
care for soccer. I'm not a huge sports person, anyways. But there's a few sports that I can at least get into and watch and have a good time doing. So soccer is not one of them. I
Hmm.
am sorry for anyone who may be offended by that statement. However, I love Headmaster.
Awesome.
So I want to make that point very clear that if you're watching this and you're thinking, yeah, but like I don't really like soccer, or I really don't care for soccer, like that's fine. I don't. I imagine that if you play soccer or if you're good at it, you might be good at this game like right off the bat. There might be parts about this game that you're just instinctively good at, because all it is, you don't need a controller, you don't need motion controls, you don't need the DualShock 4, you just need your head.
Hmm.
The soccer balls are just thrown at you from various directions, and you just need to hit them with your head, and whatever direction you need, whether it's the soccer goal or any number of weird targets that the game might place in front of you, depending on what trial you're doing.
Yeah.
So if it's something that like one of my best friends has played soccer for a large portion of his life, so like I'm really curious to have him play this game, because he definitely has more experience, I would imagine, with heading soccer balls into any given direction. So I do wonder um, if that might actually have an effect on your skill level at this game, because I've played a lot of this, but I still have there are certain elements that I still have difficulty with, even on like straight shots where it's like that shouldn't be that hard to do. I have trouble with it because I just don't think I've like done it enough, if that makes sense. Like, it's
Yeah.
all like physics based. I don't think it's a problem with the tracking. I think I just am not good at heading soccer balls.
Hmm.
But yeah, so like the game starts very simple. Uh, there's something like 40 some trials, and they get very crazy, but it starts very, very simple, and it's just, here's the soccer goal. Maybe some targets where it's like, if you hit this target you get 50 points, if you hit this target you get 100 points, and it's all based on a 3-star ranking system. So in order to progress, you need at least 1 star to pass each trial. And for the most part, getting 1 star is pretty simple. A little later on, it gets a lot more difficult. There's some trials that I was stuck on for a pretty long time, kind of in the later stages of the game. But again, starts very, very simple, and then as you progress, it starts getting weirder. So a major element of this game, and I think the thing that really makes this game as good as it is, like just from the gameplay aspect, it's, like I said, it's very simple, it's easy to understand. It might take a little while to kind of get good at it. I think even after a number of hours, like, there's still things I'm learning, like different techniques of, like, here's how you should probably angle your head this way if you want the ball to go in a certain direction. I would say actually, like, this game could maybe use a longer tutorial, because there's not really much of a tutorial. Not that I don't know if it needs one, but I do wonder sometimes as I get into the later parts of the game, maybe it could use one for people like me who have never played soccer at all, or who have never done anything like this in the real world at all. Maybe it could give you some more, like, just some pointers of, like, you're doing this wrong. Like, there's a point in the game where it shows, like, a crash test dummy. His name's Robert, by the way. And it's like, okay, here's Robert doing the proper heading technique, and he just kind of leans forward. And it's kind of to get you to understand, like, you don't need to do, like, wild, violent motions. In fact, you don't want to do that, because that's going to catch up with you at some point. After a few hours of doing, like, long thrusting movements, and, like violent, like, forcing your head forward, that's going to end up hurting. And so you don't want to do that. And so, but I do think maybe, like, when it comes to angling the soccer ball in any given direction, it might be best to, like, or I think maybe there could have been a practice mode or something where they could have someone saying, hey, like, angle your head in this direction or do it this way, because there are certain elements in some of the later trials that I'm really having a difficult time with. And I think it's my technique. I think it comes down to my technique, and I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing wrong, I guess. And so I think I kind of wish there was something there telling me specifically, here's what you're doing wrong. Here's the proper way to do this. I think it would alleviate some of the, not quite frustration, but some of the pain of getting through some of these levels. But Colin, have you ever played Portal?
You know, I was waiting to get to this part. I have played not only Portal, but Portal 2 as well.
Yeah, both great games.
Yes.
Both are games that have, I would say, relatively simple mechanics. Of course, they take those mechanics through every possible avenue they can get.
Yep.
But one of the things that you would probably remember most about Portal is the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a super complex story, but it's something that has very memorable characters. It's got great writing. It's very funny. And something that, you know, has enough twists to keep things interesting throughout a relatively short playtime. Portal 2, Colin, is maybe one of my favorite games of the last generation.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people say they like Portal 1 best. I firmly stand behind Portal 2 being my favorite. Now, I bring this up because this is straight from their press kit, and I've seen a lot of people mention this even outside of it, like whether in reviews or previews for Headmaster. One of the bullet points for this game under the highlights and features is the strange love child of Portal and Wii Sports.
Huh.
It's funny. It's like, okay, sure, but you immediately get it. Wii Sports is something that had very simple concepts that, in some ways, just only amounted just to being, like, kind of proof of concepts. Of, like, here's kind of this really simple idea, and we're gonna kind of do a little bit with it, but not too much. Headmaster in a lot of ways is that, but I would argue, and especially in comparison to some other VR games I've played, I don't know if it's something you felt. I've played a lot of games where it's like, this is a really cool ideal, but maybe it's not taking it far enough or as far as I would like it to go.
Yeah.
Waddle Home and Wayward Sky, I think, are two games that might fit that category of like, here's like a really interesting concept, but it's not quite going super far with it. I would say Headmaster goes above and beyond what you would expect. There are some insane, just really crazy trials. Like, they introduced bowling and basketball into this, and into some really like incredible ways that is like, it puts a smile on your face, but it's just, and it's awesome. It's just super cool to see them really take this really simple and novel ideal and expand upon it in some ways that you might not expect. So the portal element, basically what they do is you are in, what is this place called? It is the football. Go ahead.
Football Improvement Center, as I'm seeing it called.
Which is not a prison.
Okay.
Even though don't worry, it's not a prison. It's where you go to improve your football skills. So there's a voiceover, kind of the head of the prison. The Football Improvement Center.
That puts barbed wire up.
Yeah, it's normal. What soccer field is not surrounded by barbed wire? You tell me. So there's a guy over the megaphone for every trial, and he's talking to you. And sometimes he'll explain, like, okay, in this trial, here's what you need to do. Or, in this trial, we were thinking, you've had a rough go, so we're going to throw a party for you. And then suddenly there's a big piñata standing between you, or hanging between you and the soccer goal. And so if you hit the soccer balls into the piñata and break it, you get 500 points. And then, like, when you break that, a bunch of other goals show up, and there's other things you can do. Or there's like all these other weird things. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it for people, because some of these deserve to be surprises.
Is there cake?
There is a cake in that instance, but they don't reference it. Thank God. I am so happy they don't like directly reference Portal in that way.
Yeah.
But it is abundantly clear. It is super, super clear where the inspiration is from. It's kind of a similar style of humor, although I think in Headmaster it's more encouraging. It's a lot about encouragement and being like, yeah, you can do it, go you. If you get 3 stars on any given trial, you get I don't remember the exact name for it, but you get a special reward. It's like, okay, great, you did awesome, you got all 3 stars. Here's your this is a reward that encourage you, basically. Okay. But what they are is the most like mundane objects. So like they threw a clock, like, and so they come out of where like the soccer balls are shot out from. And so I was like, okay, here's your item, and then like it shoots out and it comes and it hits you in the face, and it's like a clock, or it's one of those like fish things that you mount on a wall. Yeah. Or it's a fire hydrant, or it's a not Gatorade bottle. So they're the most like mundane and weird things. And what's cool is when you get them, if you go back to the level select, your level select is your cell, room, dorm. And if you look, you can kind of turn around 360. So there's like a bed, there's a microwave, there's, clock, calendar, whatever. And behind you is actually a bunch of shelves, and the shelves are all lined up with the different awards you've gotten for all the 3 stars. Cool. And so that's kind of cool. But yeah, like the writing and just the humor, it's a very similar kind of humor, but whereas, GLaDOS was kind of condescending, yes, that is the word. This character, who is unnamed, I believe, is more, he is clearly dealing with some trouble. There are some legal issues going on behind the scenes with this Football Improvement Center. And so you get the sense that there's something going on there where they're trying to get you to pass all these exams to try to eventually graduate from this center to go back to your team. But it sounds like maybe funding is drying up, and so there's like a little bit of a panic within himself. But he's also like trying to put on like a good face for you to be like, okay, yeah, no, like good job, like you're doing great, you just keep on going, you're almost there. And then there's Carl. So Carl is, I guess, kind of like a janitor in a way. I don't know if they give him a specific title, but Carl is another character who's kind of working behind the scenes, and he is the guy who sets up all of these trials.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the trials start getting weird, when they start incorporating fireworks and explosives and other absurd things, Carl is the one behind that. And so like there's this element of like Carl versus the narrator, where they're kind of at odds, where Carl's like, oh, but he's so boring, we gotta liven it up, we gotta really like take these trials and amp them up to 11. And then the kind of the other guy, the head of this improvement center, is like, no, like we have a budget to work with. So basically you have this guy who's talking to you over the megaphones, where each trial is located, and then Carl is sending you written letters.
I was going to ask about the
trials.
letters. Yeah. I remember seeing those.
So basically these letters are all written by Carl. They're coming on random like pieces of paper, so you can always like see that he is clearly something that he just grabbed from some office room. Because typically they have like other things on the other side where you can just barely read part of it. Sometimes it's like bulletins or like other random things, and then like you open it up and it's all handwritten, and he's always got like, sometimes he's got like drawings that he's done, and he signs his name in like this in something that you would imagine like a teenager writing, like red marker, like very jagged edges, and like just, I don't know, there's an element of him just, you imagine like if you Drawn to Death, David Jaffe's game, right?
Yeah.
And you think of like how that's all made up, like it's like some teenager's notebook. And you think of that kind of aesthetic with the writing and the drawings and stuff. That is exactly what Carl is.
Okay.
In some ways, and it's hilarious. It's super funny because he is also like, he is aware of we'll say the divide that is between him and the headmaster, I guess we'll call him, of the football improvement center. But he's also like very optimistic and like, no, we gotta go all the way. Like, listen, look, I've got an ideal. I know he says like we gotta take all the cool stuff out of these trials, but like I've got a plan. When he sees this, he's gonna love it. Trust me. And like he never does. So I don't know if this is necessarily going anywhere, where if there's gonna be, like I said, I'm on the last couple trials, and there's some interesting plot development happening that I don't want to say too much about. I don't know if there's gonna be some crazy twist or anything like that. But what is there is really enjoyable. It's super funny. It's very well written. And it complements the game in a way that, again, like I was really not expecting. I've said this before, but it's probably one of my biggest surprises from all the VR games that is out right now.
Okay, cool.
So there is I do want to talk, I mean, this game's a little weird. I think, we want to talk about what the VR aspect of this game is and like what that adds to the game.
Yeah.
In this case, the VR part is just kind of part of the game itself.
It's your head, basically.
It is your head. It just tracks the VR headset, and that's it. And so in that respect, have no trouble with it at all. I would say you probably want to play this sitting down. I have played it standing up, and it is fine. But the thing with standing up, there's often times where like the soccer balls will be coming from like the far left or the far right, and so you might be like, you might kind of need to turn a little bit to see them.
Yeah.
And in those instances, it can be very easy to start kind of wandering around the room very slowly. So like last night I was playing standing up on one specific trial to see if maybe I'd be able to do it a little easier. And after a couple tries, I noticed, like, I took the headset off and I noticed that I was about 8 or 9 feet to the right than when I previously started, and I didn't even realize it. And the only reason I knew is because at one point I went to like head a soccer ball, and it was like, yeah, you're out of the play area, and I just thought, where am I? So this is the type of game that you're not like, because you just keep turning so slowly but surely, you'll probably end up moving. And so you might want to be careful about that, especially because you're going to be forcing your head forward. You don't want to hit anything. But Colin, I'm wondering if maybe you have any other questions. You know, someone who hasn't played this, like, are you interested in this, or is there anything that you're still wondering about? Maybe some questions that have remained unanswered.
Just a few. I've noticed that, like, from what I've seen, every environment kind of seems like it. I guess I don't know if I use the word environment, but like every locale that you're in seems to be like the same goal and just different things. So
the answer to your question is they are not the same.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot in the same area.
Are there different areas? Okay.
Yes. Okay. So this game is kind of split up. Basically, there's like 4 exams, and then I think so. I'm on exam 4 is what I'm on, and then after exam 4, looking at the level select, there's like 2 other trials, and then a final like this is your graduation thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the graduation specifically consists of, but this exam 4 feels like a final thing.
Okay.
Like it feels like this is it. And it's hard, and I've gotten very, very close one time, but it's hard. But I think of them as it being split up into 4 acts, basically. And so each act doesn't necessarily, or chapters or whatever you want to call it, right? Each one doesn't necessarily mean it's in one specific location, but as you progress, and especially after you get past exam 1, you start finding yourself in different locations. Sometimes you'll be indoors. Sometimes you'll be like in a different part of the field, I guess we'll say.
All right.
But it does change up, and as I said, like it just keeps getting weirder, and it really feels like, you know, that this is something that I think they could have easily had just this very simple ideal, and you know, people would have gotten into it. It's like, yeah, it's very easy to understand. It's just a lot of fun. And I think they could have easily had that and not had this story, or not have taken it to the level that they've taken it with this game.
Yeah.
But they really went all the way. Like, it really does feel like they thought of every weird thing that they could possibly do that would make sense and work, and they did it. Like I said, I don't want to say too much, but like, there is straight up an instance where you are standing there. There was a bowling lane, alley lane, like right in front of you, 10 pins. They throw a football, like American football, a helmet on you, and they start chucking bowling balls at you, and you were just straight up bowling.
Nice.
And so, like, that's one of a number of things, a series of things that's like, what are they doing? This is insane, and I love it.
Cool.
But, oh my god, like, and so, yeah, like, so, yeah. Is your question of, like, are there other areas? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all I had kind of seen is just the standard area with the goal and the green grass and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So it sounds like you're pretty positive. Would you say it's worth the $19.99?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There is still. I probably have to think a little bit more on it, because I don't know that I'll give this a 5. I'm leaning like 4.5 right now.
Okay.
Because there are things, and it's tough. I think one of the great challenges when we start reviewing VR games is, I think maybe as time goes on, it'll be easier to point out what is specifically the fault of the game versus just the camera or the headset itself, you know?
Sure.
And so, like, it's kind of judging that. And so there are times in Headmaster where I do wonder. Where I wonder if maybe there is some things, like maybe I'm having trouble with this specific thing because maybe the head tracking is off. But I don't think that's the case. There has been a couple of times, and I've noticed this with other games too, where like I kind of have to grab the controller and recenter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've done that. Like I've had to do that, I think, with most games.
Hold the options button.
Yeah, hold the options button and recenter.
Yeah.
And I think that there's also an element that just because is sometimes like you just kind of wonder a little bit. It's not necessarily the tracking being off. It's just like, especially if you're standing up, you just kind of wonder in such a way that you're not in line with where you should be standing.
Yeah.
Or sitting, because I sit in like a chair that rotates, also like a spinning office chair.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I also think it would help to have maybe a little bit more of an extensive tutorial, specifically on hitting the soccer ball in like in different directions. Like, because there's a lot of times where you'll have a goal, or you'll have like some like a target to hit that is way off to the left or way off to the right, or very high off the ground. And I think in those instances, the game kind of tells you or teaches you how to do it. But I think in some ways it might help to have something a little more, just in case, just to make sure that you fully understand how to do those. Because sometimes it does feel like there's maybe I just get a little lucky.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just kind of the nature of the beast that is this kind of game. But there are some instances where I do think maybe it would be a little better if they had maybe more of an extensive tutorial. Because this is so different. It's such a different way of playing a game.
Yeah.
That it being hard is different from I just got to hit the X button faster.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Sure.
So yeah. Do you have any other questions? Any other things that you're wondering about?
Not at the moment. Definitely want to try it out again on at least the demo disc.
Yeah.
Provided.
I really. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it looks fun.
Yeah. I really, really like. I know that. It's weird to think Portal has been a very long time from now.
2007.
It's been close to 10
9 years. Yeah,
9 years. I really think if that kind of humor is like, if that's something that you really enjoy, I really think this game might surprise you.
Okay.
I just, even though like I'm not gonna come out here and say the story is the best this year. But the writing's really good and it's very funny, and I'm really, really, really curious to see what the ending is.
Yeah.
For this, like I'm really curious to see, because there's a lot of build for where I am right now. There's a lot of build up. There's a lot of build up going on, so I'm wondering what's gonna happen once I clear this exam. Go ahead.
What if it ends on the moon?
I've thought about it. I've really thought of like, where could they take this, because they're going in some weird directions.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I really, this is a lot more than just what you might have seen in videos or trailers.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to this game, and I think, yeah, like I said, other than Thumper, this is one of my favorite games I've played on VR so far.
Cool.
And it's definitely the biggest surprise for me. It's it's definitely the biggest surprise. So. That's Headmaster. Thanks for watching and checking out this video. Let us know what you think. If you're playing Headmaster, I'd love to know what you think of the game so far. And if not, I would totally recommend checking out. There is a demo for it. How long is the demo?
I assume the demo that's in the demo disc is the same that was at the Best Buy demo.
Okay.
And that maybe's only about 10 minutes or so.
Okay. So probably like 1, maybe 2 trials.
Yeah, I would
maybe
say
a little
so.
bit more. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. So thanks everyone. Thank you for joining me as always, Colin.
You're very welcome.
We'll do more of these. Some of which will be games that you've played, so you'll get to talk a whole lot too. I look forward to hearing about, I don't know, Batman.
Ooh, the Batman.
The Batman.
Wear the cowl.
Wear the cowl. Don the cowl. Hashtag PSNStores Don the cowl. All right, everyone. We'll see you later.